Whether we were close friends, I'm going to say yes. I think we still are in our own ways. I think kind of better of him now because he's a celebrity. I have to admit that. I like, well, some celebrities, hardly any of them, but I think it's an honor to have known him. I loved when just the two of us were together and go motorcycling. Uh, and it would be, there was no problem when we had our wives along either. But I could call them, and God, I was thrilled. We'd take off in the morning, go over to Wisconsin, have a few beers, and just, he was fun to be with. So in one way, a lot of years have passed now. I wish I could do the very same thing. Let's go out and, well, now it'd be for me coffee, but maybe it would be for him too. I enjoyed him, and I would say, yes, he is a friend of mine, probably one of my best friends somehow. I do not have a lot of male friends, but in certain way I don't have any, but there's some people I prefer to be with for a while, but I'll put it this way, I prefer the gals insofar as having someone to talk to. I think it was Pirsig's. That's a good question. You're making me think. I'm also reading another book about a guy. I won't give his name here at this point. It looks a pretty good book and made me want to read the original book again. But I think Pirsig proposed this trip to me and Sylvia, and right away I went for it. I think Sylvia did too. She wanted to get the hell out of the house. And we got someone to take care of the kids. We had 3 kids at the time. And it was Harvey Abrams and his wife, Susan Abrams. Her name now is Stanish. I want to give her credit. She's still living up in Duluth area. Harvey's still living too. But then I kind of assumed, I thought, like, that would be a kick if I could get the time off from work. God, we were busy at that work thing. I'd never really had a I didn't get a vacation until actually I retired. Like a lot of people, they work, well, you can get 1 week off or 2. We think that's really hot stuff. God, you find out over in Germany and France, they have the summer off, for God's sake. We're working our butts off. Anyway, he wants to go on this trip, so I thought, well, that's cool. And I just, I've been driving this BMW, perfect for a touring bike. So, and that'd be about right. It was going to take a couple of weeks. But I assumed we were just going to go with the adults. Well, then he's going to take Chris. And I thought, oh, God, I've never been nuts about young little boys. And I thought, well, Chris is a little young for this anyway. I had mixed feelings. I kind of liked Chris, but I found him kind of a whiner and what have you at the time. I thought Pirsig's family was a little peculiar compared to ours. But anyway, each family is a little different, but Chris and his brother, I couldn't figure out what's going on with those guys. But to have Chris on a trip, we like to kind of hoop it up in beer joints and this and that. So anyway, on the other hand, I thought, well, God, the guy is trying to be the good father, do something with his son. I had an understanding that the other son would go with Nancy in the summertime, and Bob would go with Chris. So I thought, well, he's trying to be the good father. Let's see what happens and see how it goes. It's only going to last for a couple of weeks anyway. So that was my views on going to that trip. We took a few, not for, usually they were only 2 or 3 dayer things. We'd go over to Wisconsin, which was just a kick in the pants. Bob had a good way of staying off the main highways, going to these funky towns, and of course the beauty, to me, Wisconsin's more beautiful than Minnesota anyway. I like some mountains, not the biggies like in Switzerland, but little kind of hill mountains you get in Wisconsin, or even I like the mountains. I won't digress on this, but to me they're perfect out in New Mexico. Anyway, we'd travel and go all these joints. We'd have a ball, then stay in these funky motels, and the whole thing would just be fun for weekends. He did mention this, and again, we thought, or I'll speak for myself, well, that's cool. It'll be read maybe around here, and we'll just see what happens on this. I didn't think from some kind of a, not that I'm any literary expert, that I couldn't really see him except if he would write about things that he could talk about, such as his travels. This could be something. But insofar as writers, as I understood them, and I knew 3 or 4 of them almost personally from going to the university, that I would meet at McCosh's bookstore. But anyway, those are some of my thoughts I had about the book. Whether we're portrayed really accurately, I'm not sure. Pirsig told me on several occasions another book could almost have been written on me, either my personality or what have you. I think he enjoyed me. I'm the fun guy, and I like being the fun guy. I like people that make me laugh. He would make me laugh. Auden, I remember reading someplace that his best friends were the ones that made him laugh. I like to make people laugh, especially when women can make me laugh. Not too many do, but anyway, that's the way I'd kind of answer that question. Still drum, yep. Do a little practice at home, not much. I never practiced a lot. Instinctively, I kind of had that in me. Learning from listening to a lot of music, Count Basie, Ellington, that Basie band was something else, and all the big bands came here. I've been drumming since about actually 1943 or so. Joined the union in 45, and for quite a while made a lot of money drumming. So when I'm really feeling rotten, even if and I've had some sick problems lately, going in just even play for nothing, just as like getting a real good shot in the arm of complete happiness, especially if I have a string bass with me to keep that rhythm thing moving along. Yeah. Oh, the biggest influence for drumming, I went over the prom, I remember years ago in the 40s and saw Gene Krupa, and oh God, that blue-black hair of his and that white pearl drum set, and I thought, oh my God. And the sound he would get off that snare drum, and in that band, he could swing the band, and he was just something popular about him, and that whole rhythm thing. And of course, there's the Buddy Rich and all those damn good drummers. And around here, we had music. We had 3 dance halls to go to, and sometimes this is how goofy it could be. We'd call the prom, and we'd check and see who's going to be on the band, especially what drummer he's going to have. I can't think of a bunch of them now, but Butch Miles was Basie's last one. He sounded a lot like Buddy Rich, but he could rip that band along. Skinny guy, I saw a documentary on him, and I was just amazed how this little character could swing that band. Also, he had a black guy on drums. I can never remember his name, who was just a swinger. A lot of drummers, ironically, making all that noise are little people. Physically, and to swing those big bands, and that's the heart of the band, the drummer. So catching those guys, then I wanted to be a drummer. Starting out with some boxes, and the first drum I got with my dear mother down on Washington Avenue, a bass drum, and I think it had a moon over the mountain type picture on the front of it, and it was about 39, 40 inches round there. and that thing I hauled home somehow, and that started my career. And then I played at Washburn High School in the swing band and in the marching band. And some of my friends were drummers. Bill Blackstead was one of them. We only lived a couple of blocks away, and pounding the hell out of those drums every night. And in fact, at one point, some of the neighbors, one of them was in the legislature, and they were going to get a law because we were making so damn much noise there. So we agreed to kind of cool it up until 8 o'clock or so. But I've always liked those drums. I think they've tried to read the book. I don't think any of them, Sylvia's read the book and finished it. I don't think my kids have read the book. I think they've tried, but they don't understand it. And Sylvia is a critic of the book. I think more afterwards and knowing what she thinks she knows about Chris and how he wasn't treated fairly. I have to put that in quotation marks in the book. I don't have that type of criticism, but Sylvia is not crazy about the book, especially in things she has some opinions, I think, about Bob that I haven't gone into and I don't want to. I would probably just disagree, that's all. And so to answer that, I don't even know if people in St. Paul or this area have really read the book. They'll talk about it. Another friend of mine, he knows how to BS about it. I don't think he's read the book. It's a difficult book. If anyone tells me, oh yeah, I finished it last Thursday, it's a hell of a book, or I disagree with them, well, my God, I'm just still catching on to the book. You don't read this in one night. You don't maybe read it in a year. It's a book that the real professors that I've had contact with, they use it as a textbook to study Oriental philosophy, Western philosophy, values, quality, and technology. I might put a little criticism in here, a book I like that I would compare it to. Now I can't even think of the name, but it's by a French sociologist. I'll think of this later because I wouldn't mind people looking at that because it's a very anti-technology book. Also, there's references in the great, the religious philosopher Thomas Merton, who I still read, kind of has a lot of negative thoughts about technology and how it's being used today. Jacques Ellul is the man that wrote, I think, the most negative books in the last 60 years on technology. It's just called Technology. I'm not sure how the name goes, like Elluah. He's written several books on technology, including how it has affected politics, campaigning, and the whole mood of trying to live the so-called good life. I would say I'm fairly well read on fiction. I like Mary Gordon for among many fiction writers. I like Updike. He's got a rhythm to him I like. Some of his stuff about suburbia and all the sexness and that doesn't knock me out, although it is fun to read. But a couple of my favorites are Henry Miller. If I feel down, I read his things. He's very sharp. Was a beautiful man, I think, and very funny, and a very good writer. Singer thought he should have won a Nobel Prize for his literature. I try and keep up with some fiction things. I read theology, some philosophy. I still read Freud. I think he has one of the great insights into 20th century culture and civilization. In fact, his book called Civilization to me is a must read. But of course, I read that New Yorker, which is, driving me nuts because I can't keep what essays I want to keep. And That's an excellent magazine, regardless of all the stupid advertising in it. But anyone that thinks they're keeping up with things really should subscribe to the New Yorker.